Welcome everyone who's watching this or listening to this recording. Welcome to our space here that we're creating together. And I'm just so thankful, Melanie, for really giving me the opportunity to just connect with you over this topic. It's a rare thing for me to be able to connect with someone over this in this kind of a way. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so grateful too, because I think both of us can really attest to it is a personal journey. It is a solo journey to work with this galactic calendar. And I have been doing it on my own for a long time. And our
Mm.
connection, meeting through priestess work and priestess presence, and then knowing that you're also incorporating the galactic calendar just sparked me. And I was like, we have to talk about this. We have to bring
Yeah,
this into the consciousness. So do you
absolutely.
want to go ahead
Mhm.
and just introduce yourself and let people know who you are?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Traci Uchida, and I'm a licensed therapist. I specialize in transpersonal and somatic therapy. I work from a very holistic lens, work with a lot of trauma, and I also incorporate touch therapy into my practice. And it's a therapeutic touch modality that I also teach with a team of women in, and it's called relational somatic healing. So I do that as well. I've been branching out into teaching my own online courses that are centered around healing and awakening and building your own multidimensional toolkit for your own self mastery. And I've been recently launching this program for manifesting using this system, using the Dreamspell. So that's a little bit about me. I've been a therapist for just over 10 years now. So it's been quite a journey, and using this system has definitely gotten me to where I am now. And I do not think I would be where I am now without it.
Mm,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. So my name's
Mhm.
Melanie. I also share in that I trained as a somatic psychotherapist. I was licensed in the state of California. I through that practice, I ended up realizing how psychic and how psychic my capacity was, and so I started branching into learning about much deeper forms of energy work and working with the quantum fields. And so I pretty much realized that part of my path is working with the land and working with the energy grids of the land. So I've been on the road for the last 5 years doing that work, mostly in secret. Or like I would say, not secret. I'm not secret about it, but I'm not really sharing about it either. And now I'm
Mhm.
starting to open up into more sharing some of my psychic gifts through one-on-one consultation, also organizing these earth activation tours so people can actually come do a mission with me on the land and really feel the energies of these incredible vortexes that we can access in our physical body and the land. The Mayan calendar, the Dreamspell calendar, the Galactic calendar, we're going to talk about that in a minute, has came into my sphere in about 2011. And since then, everything's amplified. Just synchronicities have multiplied and exponentially grown my psyche. So that's why we're here talking about this, is it's running in the background for me all the time. And it's
Mhm.
really a guiding light and guiding principle. But yeah,
Yes.
talking about the name of this calendar is kind of interesting. What do you want to throw in there about that,
Uh-huh.
Tracy?
Wow, yeah, the name of the calendar. Been I've been kind of shy about talking about it. So I've only recently been a little bit more forward in using the name Dreamspell because this system has so many kind of strange words for people. They're like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
And so I usually call it a 13 moon calendar. Some people can kind of grasp onto that a little bit more easily. And then once I say it's a 13 moon calendar, I can say that it has a name. It's called the Dream Spell. It's based on the Mayan calendar, but it's not the Mayan calendar. But it depends on how deep people want to go into it, because even that can be a lot. And they're like, oh, I don't know. Or they're called to it. Either one. It can go many different ways.
Yeah. So from my understanding, that the Mayan calendar was brought into the consciousness by, you know, a, I guess it was more of a shaman statesman being in the Mayan tradition who was called
Mhm.
Pakal Votan. And so all of those kind of ancient circular calendars and whatnot that you see when you go into Central America, and sometimes it even goes down into the Aztecs kind of adopted that, and so it's been kind of spread. But as we know, you think of the telephone game, things get shifted and changed and diluted over time. And so I think, I'm not sure exactly when Jose Arguelles came into body, into being, or when he awakened. I could look that up. But there was a being that came into body that actually was a reincarnation of Pakal Botan and reinstated the true alignment and cycles of time of that original Mayan calendar. So that's what we're talking about. That's the calendar we're working with. There's a beautiful woman who runs she makes a calendar. It's 13moon.org. She's put together, she calls it the Galactic calendar. Some people call it the Dreamspell, but that's the system that we're talking about. It's this kind of remembered Mayan calendar. And what is it? You know, Traci, give us like what it is, a 13 moon calendar, but more, tell us what your definition of that is. Like, how does it work?
Absolutely. And I love that we're just kind of co-creating this together. This is really, really fun for me. So the part that I work with, it's just one piece of the greater system of the ancient Mayan calendar as a whole. So for me, the lunar part of it, or the 13 moon part of it, the dream spell part of it, we're just working with the Solkin or the Solkeen, the 260-day calendar. We're not kind of going into the greater cycles yet. So it's just the 260-day kind of Solkin, which means sacred calendar. Solkeen is sacred calendar. And that cycle of 260 days consists of the cycles of 1320, right? The 13 wave spell cycles, or the 20 wave spell cycles of 13 days each.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this beautiful ratio that happens. Like Traci said, there's a 260-day cycle that nests within the 365-day cycle. And in this calendar, in the system, there's many of these nesting cycles. So, you know, what Traci was talking about is that there's 13 20-day cycles, there's 20 13-day cycles, and, you know, there's a 7-day cycle. You can track the 28-day cycle, which would 28 days times 13 equals 364. So it's about the full calendar year. And in this system, there's one day that they call the day at a time that actually clicks it over into the next solar cycle. So the solar cycle being the 365-day cycle. So there's even more cycles within cycles, but like Traci said, just to keep it simple, this 13-20 ratio becomes really important. And we can start seeing that in other sacred geometries. Like you can see that in the golden spiral, you can see that in the Fibonacci, that these two interrelated numbers, like they actually have a very strong purpose in our natural harmonic. So that's a little bit like even diving into the purpose, like the why would you even study this? Exactly. And this is like where it comes into my heart and where I want to do these videos, and I really want to get people's awareness fired up, is because when you align with this natural ratio and this natural patterning of these cycles within cycles, you are aligning with our natural harmonic on the planet and with nature. And when you do that, like things just start supporting you from everywhere. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. I would love to talk with you more about that. Just this idea of shifting from unnatural time, you know, the 1260 frequency, to natural time, the 1320 frequency. But maybe you can share with our listeners and share with me again, since I would love to hear it like more in full. Like, how did you first just come in contact with the Dreamspell calendar? How was it introduced to you?
Yeah, it was a huge initiation moment in my life. I actually had just graduated from getting my master's, and I had been in my first year of practicum studying as a psychotherapist. All this psychic space was opening up. I think I went to a New Living Expo, which was, like, let's just have a little candy shop of psychic things, so I was really exploring. And at that point, I wanted to explore the tuning forks. So I had signed up for this retreat, and it was in the Puget Sound, and we were going to be doing sound healing. And I was just like, this is 100% yes for me. And it was the most money I'd ever spent on myself just to do something like that. But I just said, I'm graduating, I'm going to do it. And when I got to this retreat, this woman, beautiful. Yeah. I mean, her intention was beautiful, but she was really underhandedly grabbing power from the group. And I was very innocent in that, recognizing it. And I was just asking her curious questions. I wasn't trying to like oppose her, but she felt very threatened by me and kicked me out of the retreat. So I got kicked out of the sound healing retreat in the Puget Sound. So I was on this island by myself, like, what do I do now? And she wasn't giving my money back, and I was freaking out. But it was so funny because at the end of the day, of course, that was a huge initiation for me. Like, what do I do with that? But the intention that I had set for that retreat was to find my own seat. So in the fact that I didn't allow her to do that power grab from me, and that I really listened to my intuition and stayed with that and stayed curious and stayed pure-hearted. And yes, I was pushed out, but the way that I was supported after that, I got in a car. I said, I'm going to go to the mountain. I went to Mount Rainier and drove all the way down to Mount Shasta. And when I got into Mount Shasta, and it was just a beautiful internal exploration. It was my first real solo road trip like that, and really just being I had nothing to do but be with my intuition about where to go. And so I get to Mount Shasta, and I walk in this crystal shop and tell this woman what just happened. And she goes, oh, don't worry about that woman. You just traveled the blue streak. And she's like, you need this, and gave me a Mayan calendar.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I was like, what just happened? And I knew I was like one of these pocket calendars. They don't make them anymore.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Uh-huh.
It was a little pocket calendar.
Digital now. They're digital now.
Oh, you can get them digitally. Okay, awesome.
For free.
Yeah, we'll put those resources down at the bottom for people. But yeah, so she gave me this pocket calendar, and I just looked at it, and it just, when you first look at it, of course, you see all these symbols and all these crazy words, and you're just like,
colors,
and you're like, I don't get it, but I want to try and understand. So I literally just did a self-study, and there's and again, we can talk about this later, but you can write out a daily prayer. And sometimes in some of the apps now, you can just see the daily prayer. So I was decoding the daily prayer, and I was saying that. And I think that year, it took me a while to start really understanding what the calendar was. But for some reason, my heart was like, you have to do this every day. Gosh. So that was my intro to the Mayan calendar.
I keep getting chills listening to this.
I had to get kicked out of a sound healing retreat to find Mayan calendar. Who does that?
I know.
Anyways, tell us about your story, Traci. I'm so curious.
Oh my gosh, I love hearing this. So cool. So my introduction to it, I was also in grad school studying to become a therapist. It was towards the end. I came in contact with it in 2012, and I had graduated in 2013. And I had a colleague who ended up being my best friend, and he was an older gentleman, and he had a background of traveling the world and teaching the Dreamspell calendar internationally, especially in Russia and things like that. So he actually studied down in Chile with Jose Arguelles. They did like a 40-day kind of like a Bardo thing where they just gathered. They were trying to gather 144 people to study it. I don't think they had quite that number. They had almost that. So they were there for 40 days studying this calendar. And I can share more about his background. But so he was my best friend in grad school. And he had said that he checked in with his guides and with spirit and asked if he should share with me the calendar, and he got a yes. And he asked me, he's like, do you want to learn? I said, yes. And
Mhm.
so we sit down. This is in Oakland, by Lake Merritt, where we sit down in the benches in front of Whole Foods. He pulls out a pocket calendar, his copy, and he's like, I can tell you more in 15 minutes than you can, read on the internet. And so he just sat there and he downloaded it to me. And I was just enthralled. And what I did was, I'm pretty sure it was that night I went and I put my birthday in and I looked up what was my galactic signature
Yes.
or my Mayan astrology sign. And, I saw it was a blue planetary night. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? But as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is
Mhm.
totally me. I was blown away. And what was even a little more wild was that blue night holds the energies of dreaming, abundance, and intuition. And at that point, I was already kind of creating my master's thesis that we had to do, in order to graduate.
Mhm.
And it was literally on dreams and intuition and psychotherapy. So I had
Oh,
like, I
wonderful.
had, I know, I was already doing the dreaming thing. I had gotten messages from since I was a little girl to pay attention to my dreams. I have a whole journey about intuition that I could share. But when I found Blue Night, I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. And so I started working wave spells, and
Mhm.
he was there as a live person for me to ask questions like as I'm going through each day, which was huge. So I wasn't doing it alone, which is just mind blowing to me how much you actually did that initial journey alone. Because to me, it's a lot to try to integrate and take in this like deeply mystical information and also deeply mathematical information too,
Mm.
because our minds are trying to make sense of it, but this information is beyond the mind.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction with it. I learned it then, and I just started doing wave spells, and I just started having all sorts of synchronicities and realizations and manifestations. I was like, holy cow. So
Yeah. So much power
yeah.
in it. Yeah.
Yep, and I've never stopped since then.
I think just on a personal note, I grew up as a Montessori kid, so I was always an
Oh,
independent learner. So it's like you give me something, I'll go work on it until I have a problem, and then I need to come and ask questions. So, but I try and solve the puzzle on my own. Yeah. So
beautiful.
that's just the way I learn. Yeah, I know it's not the usual way, which is why we're doing this, right? This is why we're hosting a little bit of an informational session on how, how we can get more information so that we can lead people towards this. I wouldn't do anything if I didn't think it was going to progress humanity and it was going to progress people in their personal process.
Exactly.
And this is one thing that I think you can do. It's very simple to like engage with every day that will actually make a huge impact on your life and your progression and your ascension. So that's why I want to put energy towards it and share about it.
Absolutely. Same. Yes. Yeah. My
Yeah.
my prayer and mission is the same as yours.
And we even have like there's initiatives for that people who are like us and who are like, this is the jam, this is the jammy jam. Like we actually are wanting to look at the calendar globally and make a shift, because that calendar, the calendar that the Western world uses, I won't say everyone in the
Gregorian.
world uses that, but the Gregorian calendar was literally developed by Pope Gregory in like 14th century, based on how they could actually incorporate pagan ceremonies into this Roman Catholic kind of mythology and programming, if you will. And so it's just out of sync. It's like tuning a piano to 440 instead of 432. Like it's just
Beautiful.
it's actually giving you this like dissonance in your daily life that you don't even
Yeah.
realize because it's so playing in the background. So if you
Mhm.
actually update your system, your personal like time system of time internally with this program, you're just gonna it's good, things are gonna be easier in your
Mhm.
life. I really believe
Mhm.
that. But I have been traveling all over the world and I have noticed, like in Nepal, I just came from Nepal, they use a 13 moon calendar. They also
Uh-huh.
use a solar cycle. They're 47 years in the future, or
Oh
49.
wow.
They are like tracking 2057 right now or something like that. I
Wow.
don't remember
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Mhm.
India also uses a different calendar. The Arabic world uses a different calendar. So it'd be great to just get everyone on the same page with like what like the harmonics of the planet are doing.
Exactly.
Because it's like all these,
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
root system, all these branches have come out, but there's still like a core trunk of the tree that we could like really anchor into and align with. So I think that the calendar referendum for the Galactic calendar is wanting to make that shift by 2028.
Okay. Uh-huh.
It's doable.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, and I loved how you put that. I haven't heard it that way before. It's like tuning the piano right to 440 hertz instead of 432. And to me, that's what this system can do for us. It's right, it's resyncing us, retuning us to just literally just the natural cycles.
Yes.
And from my understanding of it, when we are, misattuned to the natural time cycles, we literally also we have amnesia, right? So our
Mhm.
population as a whole that's using the calendar that's in a different frequency, we can't remember things, right? And um so the person who taught me this, his name's Val. So Val has a lot of beautiful ways to kind of teach this material to people. And so Val would say, what did you have for breakfast last Thursday? You're like, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. But if you ask me what happened on Red Planetary Skywalker Day last year, I can tell you I manifested my pink bike for Burning Man or something like that. So we literally, it's like mind for the yoga, he says. Like we can stretch our mind and we can remember further into the past, which helps us actually create further into the future as well. So this system helps um, remedy this collective amnesia that we have. Like we literally just can't remember last week because we're out of sync. But when we're in sync, we're like, oh, I'm in a flow, I'm in a cycle. There's things building on each other and it's fractal and I'm on this journey. It feels like a larger journey instead of wake up, go to bed, wake up, work, go to bed kind of a thing that
Yes.
everybody's with.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so true because it's so ingrained now, but I know we're in the overtone moon 100%. Like we're in this overtone moon and I know the energy of that, right? So the overtone is the 5, right? So the calendar that we're working with starts in July, and again, it's a 13 moon cycle. So you get to track the whole year based off the progression of this 13. And when I think about the numbers, and I know Traci has a different idea about this, but when I think about the tones, which are the number system 1 through 13, I think about this progression through, well, if you have studied anything about numerology, we understand what certain numbers embody. Like, of course, the 1 is oneness and wholeness and unity. And then you go into 2, and so you have duality, and you go into 3, which is the Trinity. And it's actually a lot of power in that triangle, right? There's a lot of dynamism in that triangle. So you can see as it goes up, like you would get higher and higher frequencies. And so that's kind of how the year goes. And I've studied with the Lakota elder who had a 13 moon calendar, and they talk about the 13 it's the steps of ascension, 13 steps of ascension, the moons of ascension. And so each month for them, they have a certain test and a certain gate.
Wow.
And I would say that it really resonates with this calendar. I mean, they started at a different time, which I've played around with in my consciousness, is like, is that because it's North America? Do they start the calendar in July because it's South America? Because it was originated in South America. So I don't think it really matters at the end of the day where you begin the cycles, because it's about the patterning of the cycles within. But yeah, that progression 1 through 13 throughout the year organizes myself in the year and what I'm doing. So we just came from the tone 4, which is what? It's super stabilizing. You think about the 4 corners of the house, or the 4, posts of your chair, like your legs of the chair. Like it's stable, it's strong, it's self-organizing. You go into the 5, and it's like you just have to it takes a lot of energy to get out of that 4 and to go into
Mhm.
the 6, which is another organizing principle. So we're in this time of dynamism, we're in this month of dynamism and aliveness, and a ton of energy rushing in to mix things up. So that's
Mhm.
something that I organize myself around, is
Absolutely.
that 12 or 13 moon year sequence. But yeah,
Mhm.
you have a different way of organizing the tones, because I think I think about it like vibration, or like a scale, or like
Mhm.
um yeah, like it's like an octave, if you could name it
Yeah.
like a
I mean,
13.
yeah, absolutely. I think about it that way too. It's the same thing for me. I think where we kind of found that there's this, uh, this fractal that's happening is the way that I was taught is that there's the lunar tones, which I also call the moon energies. And then there's the solar seals, which are the
That's right.
sun energies. And so each day, there's the lunar tone plus the sun energy, and together they make the sign of the day. And so I can separate them out and I can look through the lens of what's going on, today. Today's lunar tone is 13. So I can look at that lens, but I can also look at the lens of what's going on today, through the sun sign, and then I can put them together. So I can separate them out and I can put them together also. They're not
Mm.
just one whole thing for me all the time.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah, I remember now. In our initial conversation, you were saying
Mhm.
that you held those tones as the lunar principle and the seals as the solar.
Mhm.
And I,
Right.
because I learned taught myself, I never had that split. It was just like, oh, those are the tones and
Mhm.
those are the seals.
Mhm.
But I loved that, because of course, like we're talking about, it's 13 moons.
Yeah.
13 moons of
Yeah.
28 days make up the calendar. And then the
Mhm.
20, yeah, the 20 also gets broken down into little bits and parts, because it's actually 5 sets of 4 different seals. There's 4 different
Mhm.
colors that we cycle through in those seals, and
Mhm.
each one of those groupings of 4 actually has a different kind of progression about it, if you will.
Right.
Like we talk
Right.
about the first 4 being like how we take in, and then the second 4, or the second grouping of 4, is how we store, right? And
Mhm.
then how we
Mhm.
store, I'm just thinking about how we process the world, right? So we take it in, we store it, we
Yeah.
process it, we put it back out into the world, and then
Mhm.
we integrate and catalyze that knowledge. So those seals for me really represent like um receptivity and out and activity, and like how we're engaging with the world, where the tones are just like uh
Mhm.
a vibration, if you will. Like that's how it feels
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking up the energies of today, and Blue Storm is the guide today.
Is it
So that's
storm?
you.
Oh yeah, I'm a blue planetary storm. But you know what's fun is that we actually are splitting the time, the time and date line on the planet, which is how hilarious.
That's
Here we're
true.
talking about time and date,
Oh, that's
and
true.
it's like, because I'm in magnetic warrior, I'm in the morning time.
Uh-huh.
So
I like
yeah,
that.
I'm over on the Pacific side of the
Uh-huh.
date timeline.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you're running your cosmic storm
That's so
energy.
cool. Yeah, we're totally bridging the
We're
timelines right
bridging the timelines.
now. Yeah, I'm transcending into the next octave that you're in.
What a trip. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's really
Uh-huh.
fun. What now? Like what do we do with this information? Like we
Mhm.
both talked
Great
about it kind
question.
of running in the background
Yeah.
for us, and it making a huge impact. But maybe give an
Mhm.
example, or tell us, yeah, what to do with this
It's a beautiful
knowledge, with this
question.
information.
Yeah. And I think in order to answer that, and I'd love to hear your response to like what to do next with it, I can share like what I am doing with it, which
Yes.
is that I'm I use this system to track the energies of the days so that I feel like I have a way to tap in to spirit, and it's a specific lens. Like we can tap into spirit, of course, we don't need anything, but it's a lens that gives me a way to kind of organize my life in terms of what I want to create in the world. Like
Mm.
I really use it to as a creation system. I use it to see and feel into, like, what do I want to birth, bring into manifest form on this earth, right? So it really is, for me, it's a it's a soul path system. It's helping me tune into myself, my own unique energies, and listen to what spirit wants to bring through me, as me, into the world.
Mm.
So that's what I use this system for. I use it to help me, like, express myself, be myself, and birth things that will help awakening and healing in the earth at large.
Yeah.
That's just my mission. So that's how this system just helps me with my mission. It kind of, it gives me information and an anchor point. Like, I don't want to hold on to anything that is an identifier. However, it's helpful for me if I'm like, okay, I'm going to try on this lens of, I'm a blue knight. I'm going to embody the energies of dreaming, abundance, and intuition. And I really am genuinely jazzed up about those things. So, how can I bring that into the world? How can I share that with people? And so that gives me like an anchor point, instead of being like, I don't know, what do I want to bring into the world? What's my purpose? What's my mission? I'm like, it really helps me feel like, this is what I'm here for. This is my mission.
Mhm.
I don't know what it always looks like to bring in things around abundance, dreaming, intuition, awakening, and healing, but that's part of the journey, right? So that's what it helps me do. It helps me feel like I have a path, like
Mhm.
I am a specific little fractal of light, and I'm going to do what I'm here to do. That's what it helps me do.
Mm.
So if I were new to this system, I would just start with looking up what your galactic signature is, learning about your lunar tone, learning about your solar seal, and seeing how that resonates with you, and working those energies, learning about the family signs that you rotate through,
Mm.
or try a wave spell, right? Try a manifestation cycle process. That's what I did to just start learning
Mm.
this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. You're reminding me that when I did look up my glass, because of course that's the first thing we want to do. We get the calendar, we're
Yeah,
like, what
yeah,
am I? Like,
yeah.
what's my birthday?
Of course, yeah.
So when I did get that transmission that I was a planetary storm,
Mhm.
um, it was so liberating for me, because I had this whole story around being like 4 times over Scorpio and being this like transformational force. But I
Mm.
often would encounter in my family system, and maybe even some friends, people being uncomfortable with my true nature. And
Mhm.
my true nature is, it's dynamic, and I will come and swoop energy through the system and clear things out. And you know some people go and hide in their houses during a storm, and some people go and love to play out in the rain. And I'm a like big energy. So when
Yeah.
I got that, it was like, oh, thank
Mm.
you. I got this reflection that was like, it wasn't shamed. It was like, oh, but that's your true nature. So it was
Mhm.
actually really liberating for me to have that. And then, yeah, from there, I really have become that sign and seal.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
like I'm
Beautiful.
running around being guided by spirit to go this place and that place, and like really catalyze some of the old energies that the land is hanging on to, that from trauma or situations, or all the developments that are in certain places and the pollution place. It's like there's a lot
Mhm.
of energy sweeping going on, and a lot of
Mhm.
like bring new energies down into the land. So that's been really fun to like
Mhm.
explore with that and be rewarded for that. It's like once you are in alignment
Yeah.
with that
Yes.
true self, you get the universe responds to you so beautifully and brings in
Absolutely.
the support
Yeah.
for that. So
Mhm.
that's an incredible way, just a singular, easy way to jump into the calendar and to use it really functionally, is just to get your true tone.
Uh-huh.
But
Mhm.
then I think just like you, again, like it's an organizing principle. I talked about organize, like self-organizing through the year, but then It's like for me today, it's a magnetic warrior day. I know that the next 13 days are the warrior sequence, you know?
Mhm.
So I know
Yes.
like this is a time to charge forward and make big moves towards the things that I'm manifesting this whole next 13-day sequence. And
Yes.
even though each day the tone in the seal changes, that 13 um, day wheel, if you will, or little nesting pocket will carry
Mhm.
that energy of the warrior. So, and we just came out of your 13-day
Yep.
sequence, right? Of the night.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
it was the last 13 days were about let's dream, let's like
Yeah.
think things up. And now it's like we're going into warrior. It's perfect. It's like let's take action. So it's fun to hold that as like our organizing principle. And it makes sense. You know, the more
Mhm.
you study it, the more you're like, oh, this progression just makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I think that's the thing that kind of helped it crystallize inside of me, is that it just made sense.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's that's what it comes down to when it comes to our just spiritual practice. Like, it's simple, makes sense, doesn't have to be super confusing, even though there's a lot of pieces to learn. Like, once you're getting it, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that it's like if you are a yogi, if you have practiced any kind of art or music or anything, you know that if you just stay with the practice, it just builds and builds and builds, and your skills like expand. So this is like that. You just play, you just practice, you just track it, and you just see how the chips fall in. Because I mean, that for me, that was the only way. That was the
Yeah.
way that I was able to learn. But you know, it's also something that's like because I work with tarot and I work with cards and I have forever. Um, it's one of those things where if you like are someone who pulls a daily card and
Mhm.
you're like, okay, this is my organizing principle for the day. I'm pulling this
Yeah,
card. This is my
exactly.
inspiration. This is
Yep.
how I'm gonna, when I say organizing principle, I mean like I'm gonna keep this symbol and this idea in
Mhm.
my mind throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, I might look at that card and say, oh wow, that's how that played out. I feel like the
Yeah.
Mayan calendar's like that too. You look at the tone and the seal to say, okay, this is a unifying date for me. It's a unifying day. It's a one. It's a warrior
Mhm.
day. So I'm really charging forward with my work. So I'm just gonna treat that like an oracle card, and at the end of
Mhm.
the day, I'm gonna come back
Mhm.
and say, whoa, that's how that played out.
Yes.
Incredible. Look at how
Yes. You
much everyone was really in sync today and really working towards a new thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, you can treat it like that. It's like a
Beautiful. I love that. Yes. Organizing principle. Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's like a
Yeah.
365-day oracle deck.
You're right. It is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The other way I've thought of it as like an archetype. We can think of these each day as it's like an archetype that we can tap into and work with, and it's working us also. That we have all of these organizing principles, these archetypes within us also, and it's just like, which one are we working that day?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely,
beautiful.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I
what do
ask
you?
you a question?
Oh yeah, please ask me a question, Tracy.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. If you could tell people one message about this system, what would it be?
Get aligned with natural time.
I
Get aligned with natural time, baby. Like, just
love
do
it.
it.
That's your tagline now.
That's my tagline. Get aligned with natural time.
Yes.
What
I
about
love
you?
it.
What do you think? What's your one message?
Okay, let me see. Let
Got to
me feel into
crystallize it.
it. It's a path to know yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah,
good one.
path
Mm.
to know yourself. Mhm.
So I think we should probably wrap it up, but tell me, because you said you're doing some work with this in the current, like so people if they saw
Mhm.
this and wanted to work with you and jump
Yeah.
into the dream spell, tell us what you're doing.
Yes. So right now, I just recently launched a 13-week program, and I've called it Become a Sacred Manifestor. And I've got students in there right now. They're learning about it, kind of doing a deep dive with me. And it's a 13-week program where I take you through each of just the 13 lunar tones to help you learn the creation process of what's called a wave spell. And I'm going a little bit deeper into like each frequency of the numbers, and adding in the more kind of mystical properties of each number, because I have taught this system before, just the 13, but I haven't gone this deep in it. So I'm really pulling from this book. It's the Mayan Oracle by Ariel Spilsbury, and a couple of other things. So it's a live way to actually do this process and learn the calendar in community together, because that is one thing that was passed on to me, is that this system is really meant to awaken humanity collectively. We're meant to do this together.
Mm.
And so I've, since that was the way I learned it, in doing it with another person, getting live feedback, I've found that like we need to have other people who are doing this process together.
Mm.
So that's something that I'm offering. It's become a sacred manifestor, and I'm having open enrollment. I'm going to be just continuing this program throughout next year, 2023. So that's a way that people can work with me if they want to do that. And I've got some other free resources. I have a free ebook on it if you want that, where I just take you through each of the 13 days, telling you exactly what to do if you want to learn a wave spell on your own as well.
Great. That's so exciting. Yay. Yeah. And then we're just coming together and talking about this work, and maybe something comes out of it. Maybe it doesn't, who knows what happens. But so I think together in the future, there may be something that's birthed that we can, engage a group with. We'll see what happens. But I know for myself, like I said, this is an organizing principle that I use throughout my year. And coming up for me, I'm actually hosting an Earth Activation tour in Egypt, starting on the very first day of the Tolkien. So it's starting on Magnetic Dragon Day, and we'll be traveling through the whole dragon sequence. And that's what we're really going to be we're going to be working with all that dragon energy. So dragon energy is working with the ley lines. It's working with the Kundalini inside your body. So we're going to be doing Kundalini yoga, meditation, as we're working through the temple complexes on the Nile. It's going to be rad. Gosh. But if you're interested in that, I can post a link to that tour, and you can take a look. It's going to be incredible. The guides, and we're all like, one of the guides is, I have two guides. I have an Egyptologist, and there's a guide who is an actual adept who had a near-death experience and has lived on the Giza Plateau his whole life, and has remembered the gates and remembered all the prayers and the rituals that they used to do back then. So it's going to be potent. I'm excited.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm launching on the first day of the Tolkien. But I've always wanted to have a course teaching about the Galactic Calendar, the Dreamspell, Mayan calendar, whatever you want to call it. So I'm working towards that. But, the way Creator is working through me right now, I literally, I can't even have like a time. Like, of course I'm working with time, but I have no timeline. Like, isn't that funny?
Yes.
Isn't that funny? I have to like surrender, like any of my own thoughts about when that's going to happen or when that's going to manifest. But eventually there's going to be a course at some point in time. I'm very inspired by Traci in putting that together. So
I can't wait to see what happens and see where even we go with it. And remind me, what are the exact dates for your Egypt tour for people?
Yes. So our actual tour begins on February 3rd.
Okay. So a few months.
Yep. Couple months. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. So yeah. And I'll put a link below for that. And we had another thing that we wanted to link to, the 13 moon, the pocket calendars. Yeah. Perfect. Yay. Awesome. Well, so enjoy. I hope you all enjoy this little transmission and feel inspired and start to do your own research. We're both available to chat. So PM us if you want to know more, and we'll go from there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you. This is just, it's an honor and an opportunity to even get to be in your presence and be with you.
Oh, stop it. Get out of here, Traci. You're amazing. Oh, also, we need to link to your website, of course.
We will. We'll give everyone all the links.
Okay.
For us.
Okay. You're a magical being, and I'm so happy to be doing this together with you. Namaste.
Namaste.